Hi YouTube, welcome to Pagan Perspective. This is Wednesday. I'm your host Megan, aka Spearsery. Hi YouTube, welcome to Pagan Perspective. This is Wednesday. I am your host Megan, and today we are talking about the idea of organizing paganism somehow. So I feel like I kind of touched a little bit on some of my views about organizing paganism in a recent video that we did on pagan leadership. I sort of took the pagan leadership topic and expanded it into kind of organizing religion, but I'll try and kind of reiterate some of those views and be a little bit more narrowed onto the organization of the religion itself versus just having a leader. So my biggest thing, and this is kind of a little different take, I guess, than Carr and Rich. I didn't want to repeat stuff that they're saying too. So my take on it is that while individual traditions have organization, while you can have organization within your own tradition and your own path, organization on a global scale, trying to get pagans to unite under some banner and have some sort of global organization, I do not think is feasible nor right. I actually don't think it's okay to do that, or even really to suggest that. I think that it would do more harm than good. And let me explain why. Paganism, unlike other religions, is not one path. There are so many different paths. Now, under the umbrella of Christianity, you do have a good amount of paths. However, you still pretty much can name them all within a short frame of time. I mean, I think within, 1 to 2 minutes, you can probably name all the denominations of Christianity. Baptist, Lutheran, evangelical, fundamentalist, all of those. For the most part, you can really kind of target each one. And they all have their own organization within their path, their tradition. And they're also united under some common beliefs. And one of the things that Christians have that they're able to unite behind is the Bible. They have one unifying book. Now, Christians, because you also need to bring in Catholics and even Judaism into this mix, because they still also have the Bible as well. They don't look at the New Testament, but they do look at the Old Testament. And then Catholics are looking at both Old and New, and more actually books than Christians look at. So they're looking at, a Bible that is unedited, so to speak. But really, I mean, in essence, despite a couple of changes here and there and some translation issues and a few things pulled in or out, they generally have the same book. They're working from about the same foundation. That is super different than paganism. Pagans do not work from the same foundation. They just don't. Now, some might. Some have similar foundations. You can generally say for the majority of pagans, they are earth-based. The majority of pagans, you could say, are polytheistic. You might be able to even say a large number of pagans worship a goddess and a god. However, you can't say that for all traditions. You can't say that for all paths. And it really ends there. I mean, that's about it. I mean, you can say a lot of commonalities between Christians. You can say a lot of commonalities between most Abrahamic faiths. With pagans, it's very difficult to find those commonalities. Now, being pagan, one commonality we do have is, in general, we are very open and tolerant and accepting and welcoming of different paths and different ways. Now, that doesn't mean we proselytize. We don't like the proselytization. That's not our thing. And in general, we tend to be a little bit closed off, so to speak. We don't tend to be a type of faith that runs around saying, join us, join us, join us. In fact, for the most part, if you want to join, a lot of people nowadays, or those that do not have people in their life that they can reach out to or known that are in the path, most of them have had to find the faith on their own. They've had to learn through the internet and through books. They haven't had a teacher or a mentor. And so unlike Christianity, where you would be able to go to a church and learn that way, or you could meet somebody and go with them, pagans were not so much like that. We do live a little bit more in the shadows, and there's good reason for that. I mean, millions of us were, oh well, not just us, other people, plenty of non-witches were killed during the burning times, as well as witches. But millions of people were killed during the burning times for the idea of this heretical activity known as witchcraft. All that for another video. But basically there has been persecution. I mean, look at most recently. So there were murders, right, in Florida. And, is it Florida? Texas? Florida? Okay, there were some murders recently. And the sheriff actually called it a Wiccan ritual killing. I mean, really? A Wiccan ritual killing? Please, people. If you know anything about Wicca, you'll know that there isn't a single ritual for killing in the entire grouping of rituals that Wiccans use. I mean, there is no such thing as a Wiccan ritual killing of human beings. Just isn't there. It's not part of the faith. And so if they want to say a Wiccan killed a bunch of people ritualistically, okay, maybe. And maybe you could even say it was an eclectic pagan ritual killing, because to be an eclectic means you could write your own ritual. And if you wanted to write your own ritual to kill human beings, though I don't know why you would want to do that, but if you did, within the pagan umbrella, you could do that. But to call it Wiccan is incorrect, because that specific tradition doesn't have that in it. So that's my problem with this, is that we are persecuted. And even now, when we have so many more privileges than we ever did before, it still is difficult. There are still states in the South where you can have your children taken away from you just by declaring yourself a pagan or a witch. It still is a volatile thing to be a pagan. And so because of that, you don't see people shouting from the rooftops, hey, come on over and learn, that kind of thing. You know, people do have to be a little bit more on the down low about it. So what ends up happening then is a lot of people have to learn on their own, which means that they don't get that organized religion. Basically, they don't get a church. They don't get something that they can kind of go to and learn in a formalized manner that's already been set out for them. In a way, they have to kind of take the hard road, the road less traveled. And for a lot of people, that makes their religion mean more to them. A lot of people feel like, you know, if they were spoon-fed a religion from the time they were born and never really felt connected to it, and then they pursue paganism and they have to really focus, they have to teach themselves and learn and read and physically do things for themselves, that makes them more connected to the faith. It makes the faith more important and real in their everyday lives. I think that's a great thing. And to me, that's a type of organization. Not the same, obviously, as some organized religions, but it is a type. Now, that's not to say that there is not organized pagan religion out there. There are a few. They are few and far between, though. We are a minority religion. Well, a minority grouping of religions. And, you know, you're just not going to find, you know, on each street corner another temple. But we do have them. The Temple of Witchcraft, for example. That is in Salem, New Hampshire. And the Temple of Witchcraft is open to the public. It is something where you can sign up for classes and you can go to public rituals. Now, yes, you do have to work your way up to be part of the inner circle, but it is open to the public. Anyone can come and learn. Anyone can come and participate. And it has a formal structure, a hierarchical structure, actually. So that's one option. There are covens and there are paths and traditions that have set ways of doing things. They are a little harder to get into. It's true. For one thing, covens aren't big. They usually have, a small number of people that know each other very well and work together because, well, let's face it, doing magic is a big deal, and you want to be able to make sure that the people that you're practicing with, the people that you're practicing your faith with, are people you know and you trust. And so it's not something that would just necessarily be open to the public. But one way to find things that are open to the public is to seek out pagan pride days, to seek out rituals and public events in your area. If you're from the Northeast, there's a ton of them. You're going to be able to find a ton of different options. If you're not from the Northeast, it's going to be harder. I know in the San Francisco Bay Area, there's a lot of different options. But again, the Midwest, South, it's going to be hard. Not impossible, but not as easy. And that's where it's going to come on to you to find your own organization. And better yet, start your own. Be that for somebody else. I mean, the only way that we make change is if we begin it for ourselves. So if you're worried about having some sort of organization for your path and for your faith, start your own coven, start your own pagan pride day, start a public ritual. I mean, one of the things that I've begun doing that I feel like has been just sort of a wonderful addition to my own path. I've always had my family path. It's great. But I have lots of friends and they want to share in that with me, and it's not something I can always share with them. So every year I make Samhain dinner. I invite my friends, my coworkers, all sorts of people, and I tone it down. It is not, the standard ritual, mainly because we don't even call it Samhain, but I call it that for everybody else because it's more of a generalized pagan term to celebrate the Day of the Ancestors. And so it's a beautiful dinner, and I cook good. So I encourage you to do that for yourself. Find some organization, find some ways that you can bring what you're looking for into your own path. Sometimes we have to be our own motivators, and that means a little bit more work, but in the end, you actually reap more because of it. So I think that I explained kind of how I feel about organizing religion. I talked a little bit about why I felt like we really wouldn't be able to have pagan leadership because of the different paths, and the same goes for having a overarching 10 commandments of paganism. It's not going to work. There are too many different paths, and you'd end up isolating people and you'd end up alienating them, and it just doesn't jive with the idea of being all-inclusive and tolerant. We're not going to be like some of the other major religions. Now, yes, would it be great to have more of a voice on the world scale? Yeah, it would be. But you know what? I'll sacrifice that in order to keep our tolerance, our understanding, our open-mindedness, our welcomeness. I'll trade it for that. So those are sort of my few cents, I guess, on the issue. We're going to have Subs Week 2 weeks in a row because we are celebrating our anniversary. So I will see you guys in September. September, it's going to be fall already. I want summer to keep going. So for all of you out there, I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week. And as always, blessed be.